Ranga aho, John O'Naylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, I just want to start this contribution by putting the New Zealand flag in a little bit of context, because some of the debate that we've heard from the other side of the House, some of the debate that we've had and heard from submitters at different times, you would begin to think that this was the only flag that New Zealand had ever had. How could you ever possibly change the New Zealand flag because it was the only one we've ever had? What we do know, Mr. Speaker, is that this is in fact the third flag that New Zealand has had. But I think there's a really important thing to notice about the three flags that New Zealand has had, is that none of those flags have been voted on or chosen by the people of New Zealand. Those flags were decided on by the government of the day, who decided to choose the flag, who decided to tell the people of New Zealand what their flag would be, and denied them the opportunity of choosing their flag. So, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't really matter to a certain degree whether or not you want to keep the flag or whether you want to change the flag. This referendum gives New Zealanders the opportunity to choose their national emblem, their national symbol. It is not the government's. And so, Mr. Speaker, we've got these people who are saying don't have a referendum, don't give the people the choice, don't let them choose to keep this flag or perhaps choose another one. Because simply just going by the original decision of 1905 to impose this flag on the people of New Zealand. And look, let's face it, we're not saying it's a horrible flag, we're not saying that we're not proud of our country, but what we are saying is that this is an important issue of national significance, and it is one that the people of New Zealand will get to choose. Now, I think it's really interesting too that we're told that the people of New Zealand don't want this, and this is based on opinion polls. And I'm just wondering if the members opposite think that we should just go by opinion polls, because in February of last year, the Colmar-Brunton poll said that the National Party would have 51% of the vote if an election was held. So at that point, Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering if the members opposite would have been happy to concede and just say, OK, let's give the National Party 51%, because that's what the polls are saying, that's what the people of New Zealand want, and so therefore we'll let the National Party have 51% of the vote. I don't think they'd have been quite so happy to quote the polls at that point. I don't think they'd be quite so happy to let the choice of New Zealanders be determined by a poll at that point. But no, Mr. Speaker, when it suits their agenda, when it suits their desire to impose on the people of New Zealand what their flag should or shouldn't be, then they want to go by the polls. They don't want to give the people of New Zealand the right to choose their emblem. They don't want to do that because they know better. Well, I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, that we don't claim to know better, and that is the purpose behind this referendum. The purpose behind this referendum is to allow the people of New Zealand to indicate to us what they would like for their national emblem. It is what they would like to take forward. And so, Mr. Speaker, now that we are bringing this through, now that it is on the table and we've got this bill before us, there's been a lot of talk about the order of the questions. Now, they've been saying that, we should give people a yes-no vote for this one first before we ask about the others. Now, I've spoken to quite a few people, and probably am in this position myself as well, who would want to say that they are open to the idea of changing the New Zealand flag. I'm open to the idea of changing the New Zealand flag, but it will all depend, I know, in my way of thinking, and lots of the other people that I've talked to, as to what the alternative is. And so lots of people would say, well, if you gave them a yes-no question at the moment, they might say no, because they're concerned that it might end up being a sheep with a rainbow coming out the back of it. And so if I had the choice between a sheep with a rainbow coming out of its bottom and the current New Zealand flag, I think I would vote for the current New Zealand flag. And I'm pretty sure we all would. However, if we were going to get the choice between the New Zealand flag and perhaps one of those Kyle Lockwood designs, then perhaps, Mr. Speaker, I might be more likely to choose. Or I might be more likely to choose something that at least had some other aspect of New Zealand sort of symbols in it. And so, Mr. Speaker, I just want to draw people's attention to one of our submitters who I think summed up the idea of why it is important for us to do things in this process. And we got a submission through teleconference from a young man called Jordan Ward. And he raised the following concerns, and just excuse me, I just want to read out what he said. He believes, and I think I agree with him, that electors who would vote, if we just have the yes or no question first, vote no to change in the first referendum, or in the first part of that referendum, may be less likely to express their preferences for an alternative design that might come after. So what we need to do is we need to simplify this. We need to keep it simple. We need to say to people, if New Zealand was to change its flag, which one would you prefer? Pretty simple question, pretty easy to understand, no problem whatsoever. At that point, what we would then do is whatever is the winner will be run off against the current New Zealand flag. Really simple, really easy to understand, really easy to comprehend. Now, if you put that yes-no question, at the very front end of all of that, it makes life a little trickier, because those people who have not yet made up their mind whether or not they do want to change the flag, because they're waiting to see which particular alternative will then be able to vote accordingly. I did a little bit of a search, Mr. Speaker, on New Zealand logos and symbols, and you know, I've heard, people will have heard this comment made before. How many people have got a t-shirt in the cupboard with a New Zealand flag on it? Not too many. How many people have got a cap that would have the New Zealand flag on it? Not too many. But if we look around the symbolism that is most commonly associated with New Zealand, and we can look at a few different things. For example, the New Zealand Air Force on their the aircraft have got a kiwi. That's what's on the side of our New Zealand Air Force planes. New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, for example, has a sort of a fern design. Actually, what's on our New Zealand war graves is a silver fern. In fact, even if we look at an organisation such as the New Zealand Labour Party, Mr. Speaker, within their logo, they incorporate a fern, not necessarily the New Zealand flag. And so, Mr. Speaker, we need to have something, I believe, that is easily identifiable. That's just a personal belief. I think it's great. I think we need to give the opportunity for people to decide what is important to them. Mr. Speaker, there's been a lot of great events that have happened over the years, and we associate the current New Zealand flag with it. For example, when Edmund Hillary climbed Everest. Oh wait, no, he didn't take the New Zealand flag, did he? He took the Union Jack with him. And so, Mr. Speaker, we look at things like that. Mr. Speaker, we see Olympians draped in our New Zealand flag, and we feel proud. We feel proud of them because of what they've achieved, not necessarily because of the flag that they've got around them. Mr. Speaker, whatever we choose, whatever the people of New Zealand decide is going to be the most appropriate emblem to drape our Olympians in, to mark significant events in, Mr. Speaker, that is what is going to be important. It's going to be important that it symbolises what is at the heart of our nation. And that's why this debate, to my mind, has been so important. Because regardless of whether we keep this flag or whether we change this flag, our nation will have been, hopefully, through a very mature discussion, well, apart from the banter that I hear from the other side of the House, which isn't particularly mature or helpful, but we've been hearing some very good debate across our nation about what it means to be a New Zealander, what it means to be a Kiwi, what is important to us as a nation. And I hope that whatever flag we choose, whether it's this one that we've currently got or a new flag, Mr. Speaker, we will be stronger as a nation, we will be more united as a nation, we'll have a better understanding of who it is that we are, what we represent, and we will be able to move forward to be a great nation, an even greater nation than we are now. And I look forward to the outcome of this bill, to the outcome of the referendums, and then for us to be able to move on together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.